Despite her French name, Marie Curie's story didn't start in France. Her road to Paris and success was a hard one, as equally worthy of admiration as her scientific accomplishments. Born Maria Salome Sklodowska in 1867 in Warsaw, Poland, she faced some daunting hurdles, both because of her gender and her family's poverty, which stemmed from the political turmoil at the time. Her parents, deeply patriotic Poles, lost most of their money supporting their homeland in its struggle for independence from Russian, Austrian, and Prussian regimes. Her father, a math and physics professor, and her mother, headmistress of a respected boarding school in Russian occupied Warsaw, instilled in their five kids a love of learning. They also imbued them with an appreciation of Polish culture, which the Russian government discouraged. When Curie and her sisters finished their regular schooling, they couldn't carry on with higher education like their father. The local university didn't let women enroll, and their family didn't have the money to send them abroad. Their only options were to marry or become governesses. Curie and her sister Bornislava found another way. The pair took up with a secret organization called Flying University or sometimes Floating University. Fleetingly, given the English abbreviation, the point of FU was to stick to the Russian government and provide a pro Polish education in Polish, expressly forbidden in Russian controlled Poland. Eventually, the sisters hatched a plan that would help them both get the higher education they so desperately wanted. Curie would work as a governess and support Bornislava's medical school studies. And then Bornislava would return the favor once she was established. Curie endured years of misery as a governess, but the plan worked. In 1891, she packed her bags and headed to Paris and her bright future. At the University of Paris, Curie was inspired by French physicist Henri Becquerel. In 1896, Becquerel discovered that uranium emitted something that looked an awful lot like, but not quite the same as X rays, which had been discovered by Röntgen only the year before. Intrigued, Curie decided to explore uranium and its mysterious rays as a PhD thesis topic. Eventually, she realized whatever was producing these rays was happening at an atomic level, an important first step to discovering the atom that atoms were in the smallest form of matter. It was a defining moment for what Curie would eventually call radioactivity. Around the same time, Curie met and married her French husband Pierre, an accomplished physicist who abandoned his own work and joined his wife's research. The two started examining minerals containing uranium and pitchblende, a uranium rich ore, and realized the latter was 4 times more radioactive than pure uranium. They reasoned some other element must be in the mix, sending those radioactive levels through the roof. And they were right. After processing literally tons of pitchblende, they discovered a new element and named it polonium after Mary's native Poland. They published a paper in July 1898 revealing the find, and just 5 months later, they announced their discovery of yet another element, radium, found in trace amounts in uranium ore. In 1903, Curie, her husband, and Becquerel won the Nobel Prize in Physics for their work in radioactivity, making Curie the first woman to win a Nobel. Tragedy struck just 3 months later. Curie, who had recently accepted a professorship at the University of Paris, died suddenly after a carriage accident. Curie was devastated by his death. Yet, she continued her research, filling Curie's position and becoming the first woman professor at the university. In 1911, Curie won her second Nobel Prize, this time in chemistry, for her work with polonium and radium. She remains the only person to win Nobel Prizes in two different sciences. Curie racked up several other accomplishments, from founding the Radium Institute in Paris, where she directed her own lab, whose researchers won their own Nobels, to heading up France's first military radiology center during World War I, and thus becoming the first medical physicist. She died in the year 1934 from a type of anemia that very likely stemmed from her exposure to such extreme radiation during her career. In fact, in her original notes and papers are still so radioactive that they are kept in lead lined boxes, and you need protective gear to view them. Marie Curie was indeed a great lady and a great scientist.